Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown here with you on this, Wednesday college football, basketball blitz, broadcasting live from Mallory's Kitchen in Atlanta, about a mile from the Battery. I had a lot of fun, went up to the Battery yesterday, went up to the Battery, and had lunch with Chuck Oliver, Southern Sports Today. Dan Matthews, his executive producer, was on with us yesterday and got to talk to the people up at 680 The Fan, Nick Constantino, great people up there. Chris Domino. Chris has the greatest vault library of baseball interviews and stories on earth. And Dudley, I got to get him to tap into that for Cardinals, for you, being that you are a lifelong Cardinal and from birth, and also Dallas Cowboys fan. So anyway, in fact, Dudley, speaking of Newport, Arkansas, the chatter on the text thread from the Cherry Farm hunting lodge over in Parkin, Arkansas. We have a big timber hole over in Parkin, and I just got some video, and it's absolutely stunning, beautiful, gorgeous. Sounds like a movie review from the New York Daily News or something like that. But anyway, lots to talk about today. Dudley Dawson is on here with us. The ECS House Industries Razorback Report, sponsored by Chad House and the great folks over there. And you gotta love a man like Chad House, takes care of values his people, values his employees, and Christmas is his favorite time of the year when he can do things for his employees who work year round, and the great work they do, ECS House Industries. Second segment, Frank Duffy, Mr. LSU Tiger, Duffy Realty up here in Atlanta, 20 years, 45,000 homes sold. That's a lot of homes, all of them with an LSU Tiger paw on them. Top of hour number 2, Jim Nagy, Executive Director of the Reese's Pieces Mobile Senior Bowl. We'll check in talking about players that they have invited. That watch list starts out in August with about 600 or 700. It gets whittled down. 41% of the players in the NFL draft play in the Senior Bowl. That's why that slogan, "The draft begins in Mobile," is so true. Fourth segment, we'll be joined by Franz Beard, the Iron Duke, GatorbaitMedia.com down in Gainesville. His daily thoughts, his final pithy thought of every day. Great stuff as always. And follow us on Twitter at Sidelines_live. Dudley Dawson, it is National Signing Day, and Razorback fans, like every fan base, they're worried about guys going into the portal. They're worried about things just because I think being worried makes them feel like they're in control. But what matters is the guys you got on the team and the ones you're bringing in. So let's talk what you know, hogville.net, about the Razorbacks on National Signing Day. And Merry Christmas, everybody.
Well, same to y'all. Always good to be on. I always think during signing day that National Signing Day, which I guess we have 2 of now, that no news is good news. Yes, you would like to add some people, but it's definitely you don't want to lose them. And I think the biggest thing that's happened so far today is Luke Haas, the 4-star tight end from Oklahoma that Arkansas got a commitment from. Him and his brother, who's a safety, they have signed their letters of intent to come to Arkansas, which is, thought was going to be the deal all along. But Nick Saban came swooping in last week and did a home visit and was trying to get Luke out of there. But so far, he's gone ahead and signed. So that's the best news for Arkansas so far.
Yeah, well, everybody, and Jimmy brought it up yesterday about the big offensive lineman up in Iowa who was a lifelong Hawkeye fan. Alabama got him down there for a visit. And, I mean, that's not surprising to me. But, I mean, all we heard 2 years ago is this is the greatest offensive line class in Alabama history, and one of those guys has panned out. That's how hard that position is to pick, to predict, And I saw something yesterday that Rujas, the billionaire trial lawyer attorney, the ambulance chaser down in Miami, I think they're paying a high school offensive lineman NIL deal $3 million. Is Arkansas, have they lost their minds yet? I hope not.
No, definitely not. They are not paying anybody $3 million except for Sam Pittman. He's getting $5 million, but it's been a tough time for everyone around here in terms of the fans and all that. With 19 people going into the portal, I could argue with you that only 3 will make an impact being gone and all that. But and also having 3 that are not going to play, opting out and not playing in the bowl, you've got to wonder how this bowl is going to play itself out, because Kansas is thrilled to be there for the first time in 14 years in a bowl, and Arkansas has a lot of young kids that are going to be playing that are very hungry. But does hungry translate to a win? We'll just have to see.
Yeah. Whoa! What was that? What in the wide world of sports was that? Holy shnikes! But anyway, I got to ask you. You think about a bowl game. To me, and this is something that we're seeing around. And I think Franz Beard's going to talk about this. I read it in his column yesterday about bowl games possibly having the incentive to pay for maybe an insurance policy for players who might want to quit and not play in the game. What do you think about that?
That could be interesting. I mean, that certainly became a thing, going into seasons a few years ago, where kids were signing up with these insurance policies and being able to go through the season. If something went wrong, they were, able to collect on it. There's just a lot of things that, are going to be thrown on the table and decided, because the bowls, as they used to be, were rewards for kids. Everybody wanted to go. These days, it's a conscious decision on whether, if I play, will I get hurt, and will it cost me my millions of dollars possibly in draft position.
Dudley, I just got a text from Floyd R. Turbo American from Olathe, Kansas, and it says, I've been watching college football for a long time. I played football myself, he says. I got hurt. I got back up off the ground and kept fighting. People have always been getting hurt. Why is it suddenly now these players are better than all of us who came before them? Sure, there's a lot of money out there to be paid to these guys, but my God, what about the teammates that you have? You're just going to walk off the job and quit and say, I'm better than you? Your response to that, Dudley? That's an interesting thing. He says his name is Floyd R. Turbo American. Remember that character on the Johnny Carson show? That's a good quote. That's a good statement from Floyd R. Turbo, Olathe, Kansas.
Yeah, I will just say that I think it's the wussification of America these days. I talk that's been a little bit of football here lately. I was a guy who did a lot of targeting back in the day, but it was just good tackling.
Yes.
But I just think that, I understand it as a parent, at times, if your kid is about to make millions of dollars and you're worried about getting hurt, I can see it, but I come from that generation, just like you do, that we finish what we started. That if you've got a concussion, they just tell you get your bell rung and you get back out there and you play the next play. I realize there are health and safety, concerns in everything, not only college football, but just everyday life. But it is disappointing. And I know I sound like you kids get out of my yard and all this, but it is disappointing. And I can certainly understand where Mr. Turbo is coming from.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with Floyd R. Turbo. And I was listening to Chuck Oliver yesterday, and he was talking about the bowl games, and I'm sure you and Jimmy remember that BYU SMU bowl game on a Friday night that was one of the most unbelievable bowl games ever. And he was talking about same thing. Chuck coached for 6 years high school football, and he knows a thing or two about football, like both of y'all do, and I like to hope I do. And he said, I don't want to sound like some old guy out there in his yard yelling at the clouds, but you're right, the wussification of America. And it's the fault of the adults, the parents that do it. Dudley and Jimmy, were y'all's dads at every practice every day with the tailgate down on their truck with a cooler of beer with their other friends watching practice? I mean, I know my dad was like, boy, that ain't my job. That's coach's job. Your mother and I'll raise you. But I do know that anytime I ever played for my dad, he was harder on me in any sport, which is baseball, than any other player but he wasn't a lot of screaming and hollering. He was just 5'11", 210-pound middleweight powerlifting champion, and I wasn't going to talk back to him. I mean, one time in my life, I told my mother to shut up. I was called into the house. He said, boy, reach over there and pick up some kindling by the fire. I did, and I promise you, I got whacked about 10 times halfway between the buttocks and my ankles, fell to the ground. And like Sergeant Arlie Army in Full Metal Jacket, he said, you ever talk like that to your mother again, I'll knock you in the middle of next week. End of discussion. Never again. I nothing wrong with being old school. You're not old school. Jimmy's not old school. Jimmy is like Plato, Socrates, Aristotle. All of y'all are. I think that we could stop all this stuff, the guys quitting in the bowl games, by simply saying it's not cool to do it. And it's the problem of today. So, Harold Grader was on with the Liberty Bowl this week talking about it. They're going to put on a first-class show for Arkansas and Kansas. And I hope they sell that. I'm going. I don't care who's playing. You're going, aren't you, Dudley?
Absolutely. I'll be there. And then the following night, I'll be in Nashville watching the Cowboys and the Tennessee Titans.
Jimmy is a Cowboys fanatic, watches every game. But that's the whole point. You go to the bowl games. It's not the pressure that you have in a regular season game, but I'm for college football, and I'm for Jimmy Hodge. Jimmy, come back in here with us.
Yeah, well, Dudley, what I wanted to ask you about, and you mentioned the highly touted tight end that is chosen to stay with the Hogs. What is it about the tight end position that has caused all this movement? You had two tight ends at South Carolina that were key contributors to that offense, and they get in the transfer portal and leave. The best one went to Florida. Now you have Trey Knox. He's leaving to go to South Carolina. I mean, is there any rhyme or reason to any of this? You'd think if you're already contributors to your program, you maybe want to stay there. And now I know Knox, I'm sure he wanted to have the ball thrown to him a little bit more than he did. But what's your theory on this?
Well, when it comes to Trey Knox, he was recruited by Justin Stepp here to the University of Arkansas, and Stepp left even before he coached him and went to the staff at South Carolina. Is there now, and so that's the driving force, I think, behind that. A lot of people want to throw Dow Loggins in there as well. He was the tight end coach here last year, and now is the offensive coordinator at South Carolina. So that that has become probably a little bit of a factor, but I think it's more about Steph. What I will say is these tight ends in college, he used to be happy to catch 10 to 12 passes a year. Now watch all the tight ends in the NFL, all the passes that go to them, and believe that every college offense should be centered like Kansas City's and San Francisco's and all those that get the ball to the tight end. And so, I think just like other skill players, they are chasing catches and chasing limelight. And, I like Trey Knox. I think he's a great kid. He did a lot for Arkansas in beefing up from a 210-pound wide receiver to a 245-pound tight end to help the university. I know that it's been tough on his body. And I think, we'll see if he goes back to wide receiver or if he's a tight end down there. But I can kind of see that. But it's just, I think it's a mentality of being able to watch all the tight ends in the NFL get catches and saying, I'm as skilled as these wide receivers. I should be getting the ball more.
Dudley, along those lines, you think about Rob Gronkowski catching almost 9,000 yards worth of passes. And then he's a celebrity. He retires. He comes back and forth. He may be back again. We don't know. But yeah, and he played where, at Arizona?
Yes.
And I mean, this guy is exceptional. But and you hear a lot of schools will say we're going to throw to the tight end a lot just as a recruiting inducement. But I think the position Look at Georgia, Eric Gilbert. That guy is he was a top 5 player in the country. He doesn't really play much. Darnell Washington, 6'8", 380 pounds or whatever, out of Las Vegas, came in. Brock Bowers out of California. Those are the tight ends I think that everybody in college is looking at. Well, at least in high school, they want to be like that. But Arkansas has had, Hunter Henry and his brother, and they've had a lot of success at the position. But yeah, I think it going to be going forward the next prima donna position. I just don't see it. Tight end's too much of an offensive lineman, but the wide receivers, I don't know. You get me a good tight end who will block and can catch like Gronkowski. You can win a lot of championships, can't you?
Yeah. I think it's going to be, it's going to be a specific element of a lot of offenses. We talked about Trey Knox. We've talked about Luke Hawes. I want to mention Shamar Easter, who is regarded as the best player in Arkansas, or at least ranked as the best player in Arkansas this year. One of the 3 tight ends that Arkansas had committed. There were 4 stars. Jaden Ham decommitted and decided to stay to go to Kansas, which is his stadium 17 miles from his house. It's kind of hard for me to to get on him too much, especially with Dowlong and going to South Carolina and all that. But Shamar Easter took a visit to South Carolina this weekend.
Yeah.
And my understanding, we'll see whether he signs today or not. He's a young man of faith. There's been a lot of praying going on in Arkansas. Fans are probably hoping that God is going to lead him to Arkansas instead of South Carolina. Yeah. But it's going to be interesting whether he'll sign today. There has been some thought he might wait, get to know Morgan Turner, the new Arkansas tight end coach from Stanford, and maybe sign in February. So that's kind of one of the elements we're looking at here in terms of Arkansas recruiting today. But with all these transfer portals and things that are going on, the fans are not necessarily at an all-time high in faith and optimism right now.
Well, it's frustrating. I mean, we got a few seconds before we go to the break, and when we come back, we got some more questions for you. It is Wednesday, college football, basketball, right after this.
Hey, y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
It is Wednesday's edition of Sidelines, the college football and basketball blitz, the get off my lawn, old man yelling at the clouds in his front yard, Floyd R. Turbo American. It's that Wednesday. I love it. And so
hey,
I got to say,
Rob, I do have a live update, a lifetime update. Shamar Easter has decided that he is going to visit Arkansas on January 15th, take an official visit, get to know the new tight ends coach, Morgan Turner, and then make a decision between Arkansas and South Carolina after that. So I would say that that's probably a win for Arkansas that he didn't go ahead and sign with South Carolina. So continued praying and deciding on what he's going to do, but he'll be here January 15th. So it's not the best news, but it's better news than, flipping to South Carolina.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like the governor got through. There was a delay, a stay. You might say that. But look, another interesting question, and this comes from Walter Mathau, okay, Arkansas fan from Little Rock. And he says, ask Dudley. He's saying, ask Dudley if he thinks Arkansas is going to sign enough quality defensive linemen and linebackers to make their front seven Atlanta capable in the next couple of years.
I'm sure that's their hope. I think a lot of it's going to have to do with what they get done in the portal. You can have guys visit again starting January 4th. You can't visit over the holidays. I think that the new defensive coordinator, Travis Williams, will have a hand in that. But also how teams get through this signing period, what they still need, will play a factor in it as well. I know they're going to try. The good thing is that Landon Jackson and Cam Ball, who are two young redshirt freshmen, are two guys that I think are going to have bright futures here. You'll see both of them playing in the Liberty Bowl over there, getting more time since Isaiah Nichols decided to get into the transfer portal and not play. But that's one of their main priorities, and Coach Pittman has mentioned that he wants to get some more quarterbacks, more linebackers, more defenses. Everything. He's just got to go shopping, and now that the staff is getting settled, although I think Michael Shearer, the linebacker coach, will probably end up with Barry Odom. Now he's the new head coach of UNLV. That's one of their top priorities. I would love to sit here and be very confident and tell you that's what's going to happen. But I can tell you that's the want to. We'll see if it happens.
Yeah. Well, again,
what's y'all realistic?
Yeah. Well, everybody worries about the guys that are leaving. You need to focus on the guys that are staying, that are on your team, because you can't do anything about the guys that are leaving. Jimmy, jump back in here with Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net on the ECS House Industries Razorback Report. Those clouds are driving me crazy. Go ahead.
Well, if I was a Hogs fan on the defensive side, my first concern would be that secondary, because we all know how ugly that was this past season. And clearly, I'm sure they've got some high school guys on their radar, but realistically, they're going to be looking at the portal to find guys that have turned out to be really good players at the D1 level, whether it's at group of 5 schools or if it's at Power 5 schools that maybe aren't in the upper half of their conference, that can many times slide under the radar. But these Power 5 schools that have all these people working in the football building nowadays, I think, and I can't help but remember when Sam Pittman first got the job, they asked him, what was the biggest difference becoming a head coach? And he said, well, I realized soon after getting the job, I had to hire 58 people. And I had never done anything like that before. And of course, a lot of those people are consultants and people that come in just to analyze tapes, not only of opponents, but nowadays of schools all over the country that have players that could be candidates to come to your program in the portal. So I know they've researched the pool of guys in the secondary that could help the Hogs immediately. And then also at quarterback, we know Jefferson's going to be back, but we also know that he got banged up and he missed 2 games. And Hornsby is in the transfer portal, so he's not going to be back. And the young guy, the number 3 guy, came in, and he was okay considering the circumstances. But what do you think their plan is for that number 2 guy? Because we all know you're only one play from having to go to your backup.
They have added Jacoby Criswell, a former Morrilton all-star here that has been playing at North Carolina. He's been behind 2 guys that are NFL guys. He's coming home. He's in transfer. They've added Malachi Singleton, who is the high school quarterback from Atlanta. So they've got the type of quarterbacks they want to run this offense. They have 3 of them, they're certainly in better shape. Cade Fortin can come back as well if he wants to, so and he'll be the backup over there at the Liberty Bowl. So that's 4. Then you got 2 other guys. Cade Renfro is a guy that has been hurt the last couple of years. The quarterback room looks better from afar right now in that you have more scholarship guys in there, you have more talent in there, and you have guys who are built and should play similar to the way KJ plays, with maybe not trying to run over too many people.
Yeah. KJ Jefferson, that's a good point. How many times did you say it on this show? The coaches, KJ, don't run the ball so much. And he just does it because he's big and he's fast. And he's like, I can fix this. And it's impossible to stop a guy from doing that other than short of just pulling him off the field. But who's your option behind him? Beyond Arkansas's, what they got on the roster right now, you've done a great job of laying it out. The top, 22, the first 22 players. And you got to really say, I say 25 because your deep snapper, your holder, and your kicker and your punter is 26, really. I mean, you don't forget those special teams guys. But top 22, then, top 45 through 85. Does this recruiting class, what's coming in, look like they're making that step up like they need to get the quality on the 85-man roster to compete to go to Atlanta?
I like
I've been there 3 times before. You know that.
I like what they've done in terms of with high school additions. I like the 3 guys that, they're getting in the portal now. What I have to assess, and I will do this as we go along, is exactly what's left at every position. Because if you have 19 guys transfer out, and I did say that I only think about 3 of those would have been guys that would have made big time impacts. But at the same time, maybe the strength of this football team is going to be decided in January, not in August, not in September. Yeah. But what they get done in additions in January, it's going to be a big weekend, January 4th through 8th. They've already had a couple of defensive linemen in here, for visits that will be making their decisions in January. I can't even begin to stress how important it's going to be, both from a reality standpoint and a perception standpoint, to both play well in the bowl. You really need to win that bowl game. I mean, for the fans of Arkansas, 7-6 may be one game better than 6-7 numerically, but emotionally it's a lot bigger. And then whatever you get done in January in terms of portal, the portal giveth, the portal taketh away. So you could not even get me to begin to hazard a guess at what this football team's record would be next year, because I think there's so much left to be decided.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot left to be decided. Let's switch quickly before you go to basketball. The Fighting Musselmans, they're really good. They got a lot of talent, a lot of new players in there, and it's early. I mean, we're still almost 3 months away from conference tournaments, and fans of schools like, hey, you like to see your teams play tough opponents early because it prepares you for 18 games of SEC basketball on the road, 9 at home. Where do you rank this Arkansas team when compared to Eric Musselman's previous Arkansas 3 teams?
I think they certainly have more talent. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Both of this previous Elite 8 teams got better as the season went along. Arkansas will start its conference play on the 28th with a game at LSU. They finished up the non-conference with UNC Asheville tonight. So the key thing, Trayvon Brazell got hurt. He's out for the year. Nick Smith has had an injured knee that there's certainly been a lot of speculation about, that. I think this team has a chance to get to the Sweet 16. I'm not sure about the Elite 8 and Final 4 this year. That'll depend on injuries and who comes on and all that. But certainly it is a talented basketball team, and should take the fans' minds off of football for a while.
All right, got a question here from and bring Frank Duffy on here now. Interesting text that Audrey was just showing me from Clarence Beeks over in holy cow, where is this? Fort Smith, Arkansas. Clarence Beeks with the crop reports.
Put the machine back on.
That's right. Beeks. We don't have a Beeks on the payroll. But, Clarence Beeks asks to this question to Dudley, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? That's a weird question.
Yes. And the reason it is because they sang 2 Christmas songs in there. It's at Christmas. In one of the last lines in the movie, if it's this much fun at Christmas, I can't wait to be around for New Year's Eve.
Correct.
There you go. There you go.
Nothing sounds the holidays like Nakatomi Plaza.
Go ahead, Dudley. Yeah, Frank Duffy's on here right now with us, Mr. LSU Tiger from over in Atlanta. And Frank, this is Dudley Dawson, hogville.net, who's on with us every week.
Hey.
And it's just fun. I'm telling you, Dudley, you look at what's going on in Arkansas. Look what's going on around the SEC. God, Arkansas athletic program with Hunter Yurachek. Is it as strong top to bottom in all 21 sports or whatever as you can remember?
Yes. Now, I would say that 6-6 doesn't, give you a lot of faith with the football program. Although I think they're better off than certainly where they were for most time of the last decade. But from top to bottom, the women's basketball team lost their first game like yesterday after going 13-0 to start the season. The softball teams, baseball, gymnastics, and track, track capital of the world here. From top to bottom, Hunter Yurachek is earning his salary. I know sometimes it is hard when your football team goes 6-6 to realize how much the other programs are carrying the weight, and it's a great situation. But yes, I would say yes, he's earning his money.
Yeah, I do too. Hey, Dudley, listen, man, I know you got other things to do, and we appreciate so much you coming on here with us every week, and look forward to next week. But Merry Christmas to you and your family. And I'm gonna see you at the Liberty Bowl when we're in Memphis. I'm gonna find a place to meet up with you. Looking forward to meeting you, and let people know how they can follow you, because again, I say it every week. You're only as strong as your weakest link, and you're as strong as your strongest links. And you're certainly one of them. Let people know, again, about hogville.net, all your great work, because hog fans everywhere love you.
Yeah, well, hogville.net is the message board and enterprise that I work for now. And as I approach my 60th year of being on this earth, Fearless Friday is we've shifted to basketball now, a high school site. I'm enjoying that. We watched 6 games this weekend. So, it was fun. And then on Twitter at Dead Sports, which is like dog, elephant, dog sports. Enjoying putting out things, maybe not the greatest weekend with the Cowboys losing the way they did and the Celtics losing and all that. But, you can find plenty of stuff about this. Kind of my own little newspaper,
Well, look. I love it because the fact that you go to so many games, 200 high school football programs in the state, basketball, you'll do it with baseball. That's what makes true grit journalism, is boots and eyes on the ground and relationships. So, man, we value that. That's what makes Sidelines the show that it is because of you. But anyway, have a great Christmas. We'll talk to you next week.
You too.
Hey, Dudley, I hit 62. I hit 62 2 days ago. Just keep reminding yourself 60 is the new 40.
Yeah. Well, my kids who are in their 30s now think I act like I'm 18. So,
There you go. Keep staying young, man. Never graduate, like the old ad campaign said.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
All right, thank you so much. Merry Christmas. All right, Frank Duffy, Mr.
Yes,
LSU Tiger. Happy birthday. Mallory's baby was born just before midnight Monday.
Oh.
And she told the doctor, she said, look, get this baby out so it can have a birthday with Frank Duffy.
Oh, my goodness. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So December 19th. And today is the first day of winter. or winter solstice if you're over at Stonehenge with your Druid friends, and the first day of National Signing Date. And Jimmy and I, we've been talking Alabama. I mean, Alabama. It's Alabama is loading up on players, and you look like I met with Chuck Oliver yesterday and talked with him. The talent gulf between Auburn and Alabama is the widest it's been in 40 years. And as a friend of mine said on a text thread this morning, Auburn fans getting excited about flipping 3 stars. Alabama's flipping 5 stars. A lot of work to do. Let's talk about recruiting. Let's talk about LSU and the job Brian Kelly's doing and owning his state. And the Green Wave, are the Green Wave a threat to cut into LSU's recruiting base? Because I know you love the Green Wave, Frank. Don't deny it.
Well, I do. I love both teams. I'm one of those rare people that do like both teams. I grew up a Tulane fan as a young boy.
Yeah.
I was a ball boy for the team back in the mid-'70s. Of course, my very first semester up at LSU in 1980 made me a Tiger fan for life. Get into Tiger Stadium, especially as a student. I mean, my allegiance switched on a dime. So I am a Tiger fan, but I do like Tulane. But I don't think Tulane will ever be the threat to LSU here in the state of Louisiana. They just won't.
Hold those thoughts. We're going to a quick break. Mildred again shows me the old stopwatch that she keeps around her neck. Mildred was a track coach for a long time. We'll be right back after this.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959, right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
All right, they are the law in Auburn since 1959. If you need an attorney, and let's be honest, guys, Jimmy, Frank, everybody out there listening, you're all going to need an attorney at some point for something. Hopefully not a divorce, but it could be a home closing, real estate closing, which Frank knows something about. It could be estate planning. Call these folks at Haygood, Cleveland, Thompson, Pierce, and Short. They are great people to work with. I've known Phil Thompson 40 years. Love that guy. He's fantastic. It's when you sit down with him, he looks right through you. He's listening to you. He's taking notes. They're great people to work with. Again, they are the law in Auburn since 1959. Proud to have them as a sponsor of Sidelines. Frank, call before the break, before Mildred reminded me we had to go to the commercial. We talked about what goes on in New Orleans, Uptown, Tulane.
Sure.
That's a cool situation. And
yeah, I mean, Willie Fritz, I'm so proud of Tulane. I really am. I mean, think what they did last year. And again, as I said, I'm a fan of both teams and I'm pretty much a historian. I was on the TV show yesterday with my good buddy Scott Alexander, but right before I left New Orleans, I was in New Orleans yesterday, came back to Georgia over the night. They only had 2 wins last season. They wound up spending their first 4 games in a Birmingham hotel because of being displaced by Hurricane Ida. There are still buildings in New Orleans that have tarps on them from Ida. This is, again, going on about 16 months. One of my favorite restaurants, a little sandwich place called Central Grocery, where they have the muffaladas right down on Decatur, right down from my apartment. They still haven't reopened from the damage from Ida. So what Tulane was able to come back and do this year, Willie Fritz, the runner-up for National Coach of the Year, was phenomenal. Taji Spears, a really great running back. I watched that game against Cincinnati. where they beat on the road a tough Luke Fickell coach team.
Yeah.
You have the rematch with UCF in Ullman Stadium on Tulane's campus, where they win the conference to go to the Cotton Bowl, which is the best bowl that they've been to probably since the 1940s. So it is it's a great time right now for Tulane football. Having said that, though, they're always little brother. They're always going to be little brother. LSU walks into a kid's living room, and if LSU wants him, Tulane's not going to get him. It's just not going to happen. So LSU can roll up the state. LSU's biggest competition are from places or teams like Alabama, Georgia, Auburn, who comes in and gets a lot of linemen from Louisiana. We have to watch our western flank with Texas A&M. Now with Texas, we have some battles with them. But right now, sitting at number 6, unless some strange things happen today, and we think we even might pick up a surprise as well. I think we're going to come in as the number 6 team. I don't think we're going to move too far in the rankings. And for Brian Kelly to step into this program just a little over 12 months ago and to put together this first real class of his, we're over the moon happy what his results have been.
Yeah, and I just got this message from Cliff Clavin of the U.S. Postal Service. Says, congratulations to Frank Duffy for making the Million Mile Club of Greyhound bus lines. the innumerable back and forth trips from Jasper, Georgia to New Orleans, back and forth.
In fact, last night, Rob, I even had a talking to myself as I was driving back. I was like, this is crazy. This has gotten nuts, right? I mean, I wake up some mornings, I don't know which city I'm actually in. I'm living my best Renaissance life, but it's cost me. But what I wound up doing was, this was my day. So I wound up going on Scott's show in the morning. I was on with JT Curtis, who's about to break the high school record for over, I think it's like 690 wins. Coach McKissick in Summerville, South Carolina, has held the record. And John Curtis's JT Curtis, who's been doing this for over 50 some odd years, is 5 wins away from the all-time record, high school record. So he was on the show yesterday. And Mark Romig, who is the voice of the Superdome, who took over for his dad, Jerry Romig, who was the voice of the Superdome and Tulane Stadium, even going back to all the first Super Bowls. And so he was on the show, and I was on the show. And then I wound up having to run over to my club for our Christmas luncheon and then run back because the TV staff was going to be off next Tuesday, and Scott had to get a show in the can. So we did an evergreen show on the Saints-Falcons rivalry, which, again, is now tied at 54-54 if you count the Falcons playoff win. Yeah. Then we talked the Tulane LSU rivalry, which sadly has dissipated over the years. But was just incredible back in the 60s, 70s, 50s, even some into the 80s. And then we talked about the New Orleans Jazz and how much the city misses them. Even though the Pels are doing great, they're now 4th in the Western Conference, that love affair that the city had. And so I basically did 2 shows, and my daughter was driving with her kitty cat to New Orleans to pick me up at the apartment so that I could drive her and the cat so the cat wouldn't roam around the car back here last night. 8.5 hours. We rolled in at 2:00 in the morning, and I told Rhonda, and Rhonda had blown up all these balloons for my birthday. And so we celebrated it. I'm kidding you, 2:30 in the morning. And I told her, I said, man, this New Orleans thing, I love that city, but man, I'm telling you, it's taxing. So I don't know, Rob. I don't know if I'm going to be on that Greyhound much longer, buddy.
That is, and also Jimmy, he talks about they have eating clubs, eating societies. And I don't know if y'all wear fezzes or stovepipe hats with their initials on them or whatever, but Jimmy, Frank Duffy, Million Mile Club, Greyhound bus lines. And again, on behalf of everyone in America, congratulations. What an honor. Brother. Jimmy, I'm impressed with him, Jimmy.
Yeah, well, first of all, Frank, from a historical standpoint, Were you a ball boy on the sideline when Tulane upset LSU in '73 when Benny Ellender was the coach and Terry Looney, I think, was the quarterback? It was a monumental upset. It shocked everybody. And is that the last time Tulane has beaten LSU?
No. In fact, I'll get to
that.
The
98 maybe.
Well, no, I'll get to that. And it's fascinating, that little run after this. But no, I went in, literally, I went in about a month after that game. I was a big Tulane fan. I was in the stadium for that game. In fact, I'll tell you, Jimmy, you being a historian, I was actually in the stadium the year before, and it was a unique situation. LSU and Tulane played in Tulane Stadium back-to-back years,
wow.
72 and 73, because they were doing construction on Tiger Stadium, right? One of the greatest Tulane LSU games, nobody remembers, it was the 72 game when it was 9-3. LSU was beating Tulane. Tulane was driving. I was literally in that end zone. My uncle used to be in charge of the NOPSI buses, the New Orleans buses. He was a police officer, and he would sneak me into all the games. And so I was at that game right at the old bandstand, which was right on the goal line. That's where I caught my football from Pat Sullivan when the Falcons came in, and he overthrew one of their receivers, and the ball bounced off that spongy AstroTurf right into my arms. And an incredible memory. But it was right there on that bandstand. And when I tell you, the LSU linebacker stood up that Tulane running back who caught, and he dropped, literally dropped him. His momentum was taking him in. Tulane was going to win that ball game 10-9. They would have broke that streak before 73. But in 73, you're exactly right. In fact, Terry Looney was a good buddy of mine as ball boys. He wound up getting hurt in the Maryland game in 1974, like the third or fourth game. Frank Wright was their quarterback. Terry Looney directed Tulane to a win in Maryland, but broke his leg. So all the ball boys actually went down to Southern Baptist and visited him while he was in there. And he goes, "You guys are something else." He goes, "You kids are crazy." And that's when Mark Oliveri gave me my nickname as the Quick Kick Kid. Remember the old Gatorade, the rival was Quick Kick. So I got named the Quick Kick Kid. No, but I was not on that sideline for that year. But the next year is when I became a ball boy, and I did it for like 3 years. And that was also very pivotal because it was the last year that they played in Tulane Stadium. And in fact, the last game, Jimmy, again, being a historian like you are, it was the Ole Miss game, which was supposed to be the first of that year. But Hurricane Carmen in 1974 came through the Gulf Coast, pushed all those games back. So what would have normally been the last game, which was Tulane LSU in Tiger Stadium, when Charles Alexander rushed for like 237 yards, 24-22, a great ball game. My first time in Tiger Stadium, walking into Tiger Stadium and having to walk past Mike the Tiger's cage as a 13-year-old wearing my olive green and blue with the team. We walked in, I'm telling you, LSU always had that imposing, an intimidation factor of having Mike the Tiger, a live Bengal Tiger, right there as the visitors would walk in. They don't bring him in the stadium anymore, but that was incredible. The 74 year wound up ending with Tulane playing Ole Miss, a good Ole Miss team, in Tulane Stadium because that game had to be pushed to the end of the season because of the hurricane that hit on opening weekend. And to this day, I can still see in Old Tulane Stadium the champagne bottles that they wheeled out, and they uncorked them and they played Old Lang Syne, and the blue and green and white balloons for the simulating the champagne lofted with the helium into the sky. I can remember it today. And let me tell you, we talked about this yesterday on the TV show, again, Sidelines with Scott Allen. Sidelines, Scott Allen.
There you go.
My other show, Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander in New Orleans on WLAE, 7:00 every Tuesday night. But we were actually talking about the fact that Tulane Stadium hosted the first 3 Super Bowls that were played in New Orleans.
Yeah.
New Orleans had 3 Super Bowls within a 5 calendar year, 5 years on the calendar, which was incredible. And it was some of the coldest on record. And I remember to this day, I was physically at the Dallas Miami when I was there for that. That was bitter cold. But 2 years later, when Terry Bradshaw brought the Pittsburgh Steelers in to play that vaunted purple people eater front line for the Minnesota Vikings, and most people don't remember, Fran Talkington didn't play that. It was actually Joe Cap that wound up in that first game. Then this was Fran's game. But I remember how incredibly cold it was. Rob and Jimmy, it had to be in the mid-20s. I mean, for New Orleans, that's just, like, it's crazy strange. And all over Uptown where Tulane was, the ice that formed on all the tree limbs was breaking all the electricity. You almost had the first electrical malfunction like we had at the Superdome for the Ravens and the 49ers game.
Yeah. You
almost had the first one in 1974 for that Super Bowl, the third one in Tulane Stadium.
Frank, you know what? That's cool. Jimmy brought that up, talking about Tulane. And I'm thinking 82, didn't Tulane beat LSU when Jerry Stovall was there? Because all my LSU friends were freshmen there, and they had their shirts. They called them Jerry's kids, got beat by Tulane.
Well, I'll tell you, that was interesting. And that's what I said I was going to say it, and I forgot it. Jimmy, for 3 out of 4 years during that stretch, you had Rock Huntus, who was a great quarterback for Tulane in the late 70s. In fact, I remember putting out his first helmet as a ball boy and having to write Huntus. I said, man, that's kind of a strange name. He was from Florida. And I had to write it in masking tape because they wouldn't let the freshmen actually have across the back that were printed. They made us kids write them on masking tape so they would be a little humbled, right? And so I remember writing that. So Rock Huntus in 79, he kind of had he reminded me a lot of Brett Favre, that type of, smaller quarterback, but had a gunslinger mentality and a big arm. So they won in 79. Then in 81, LSU played Tulane in the Superdome, and they boat raced LSU. The old Vegas Vince was the coach of, and his last name is escaping me, Vince. But he was the coach, and he was kind of almost a Les Miles sort of type coach. Tulane ran up the score. In fact, I'll never forget this. They were winning 41-7 on LSU, on a Jerry Stovall ranked team, coach team, and Tulane did a fake field goal from like the 35-yard line. Their kicker was a kicker named Vince Manala, and he was an old front style kicker, and he was the guy that had he didn't have a shoe. He kicked barefoot, and he was one of those guys that had the old rubber band, right? So with like a minute and a half, 2 minutes left to go in the game, Tulane does a fake field goal, and Vince Manala is running one-legged with the rubber band still on his damn foot, like it's around his ankle, and he runs in from like 42 yards out to score. He like dives over the end zone. There were LSU people losing their minds in the Superdome. So when Tulane came back to LSU, that was our Orange Bowl team, who we beat Florida State when all the oranges were flying out of the sky. Dalton Hilliard, Eric Martin, Alan Risher was our quarterback. And the Orange Bowl committee had given us the bid because we beat Florida State. And most people don't remember this, but we actually, before Tulane beat us that year, we actually went to Mississippi State, and Dana Moore, the old kicker, kicked a 55-yard field goal to beat us as time was running out. The game was tied, and back then you didn't have overtime. Mississippi State beat us, and then so when Tulane came in, we were ornery, we were angry, we had lost, we had egg on our face, and Tulane, we were like a 25-point favorite. Reggie Reginelli, the running back for Tulane in 1982, I know his sister very well, that her and my old girlfriend at the time were best friends. They came up to LSU to watch the game. A good buddy of mine, Sims Hughes, who's even one of the cheerleaders for Tulane, they came up, but we thought we were going to kill him. Reggie Reginelli from Newman High School, the same high school as the Mannings, put on a show and single-handedly beat LSU that night. And I can still remember the bumper stickers after the game.
Hold those thoughts because I'm going to come back with this and talk about another great Tulane quarterback after that one, Dash Riprock. These are some great names. Rob Brown, Jimmy Hodge, Frank Duffy, Tulane Green Wave Day, right after this quick commercial break on Wednesday.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett and Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Brown back here from Mallory's Kitchen in Atlanta. Jimmy Hodge, Frank Duffy, Dash Riprock, Rock Hannes, Reggie Reginelli, Vinny Barbarino. Forget about it. Frank, I remember these Tulane teams because Memphis played in that. Mm-hmm. You know what? The Jerry Stovall years were strange. They really were.
They were up and down, like roller coasters.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like the Jerry DiNardo years. I mean, I've never to this day seen a school hire a coach fresh off the heels of a 65-0 beating at the hands of Tennessee. That was one of the stranger ones, but I think it's cool to go back and study this history. We got a couple of more minutes before Jim Nagy, executive director of the Reese's Pieces Mobile Senior Bowl, joins us. And of course, you're welcome to stay on with us, but I think you said you've got to go accept your award at the Greyhound bus station in downtown Atlanta this morning. The mayor will be cutting. Jimmy, the mayor, they're going to issue a proclamation. It is Frank Duffy Day in Atlanta.
My reward's going to be some physical therapy on this damn shoulder of mine. But yes, I'm a go.
Jimmy, this Tulane, I love this stuff, don't you?
Well, yeah, and then you had, Stan Humphries and Bubby Brister that turned out to be great quarterbacks at Tulane and, played in the NFL for a long time. But when you told me about that 82 Tulane victory, that had to be less than 2 weeks after LSU went up to Birmingham and really ended Bear Bryant's career. I was at that game. Alan Risher was like 22 for 24 or something. Correct. And then you had the two freshman running backs, Gary James and Dalton Hilliard. And it seemed like 18 of the completions were to those guys. And
it was crazy. And Malcolm Scott, the tight end, had a big
Oh, God.
Yeah, and they were up 17-0 at the half, and Bama made a run. I think they cut it to 17-10, but just couldn't close the gap. And after the game, Coach Bryant said in the post-game press conference that President Thomas needs to take some serious thought in looking at bringing in another coach. And he announced his retirement right after that.
He really did.
The final game against Illinois, but I did not remember Tulane beating LSU that season, and it's so weird to think that it was less than 2 weeks after that huge win against Alabama.
Well, it was actually about 4 weeks because you had the Alabama win, which set up the Florida State game. That without the Bama win, which was so rare back in those days. I mean, it was. In fact, that was the first time we beat Alabama in a long time. I mean, we hadn't beat y'all in Baton Rouge. It was like another 12 years before that, and it took another 15 years to actually beat y'all at LSU once Saban got there. But the Alabama win set up the Florida State game, which was a huge win. I mean, I remember being a student in Tiger Stadium when it happened. So that's what set up the Orange Bowl matchup against a great Nebraska team.
Yes.
Mike Rozier, Irving Fryer, Turner Gill is who we played there. But everything got spoiled with the Mississippi State loss, again, on a cold, dark, late afternoon game in Starkville with Dana Moore. You know, I mean, I can still see him booming that thing from like 55 yards, and it went through. But the Tulane game just totally threw everything off. And watching the defense that held Walter Lewis, the Alabama quarterback, to minus yards in the first half. And Alabama had a good team that year. To have Tulane come in, and I was in Tiger Stadium. I remember it was a cold, rainy, misty, foggy sort of night. And I'm telling you, Tulane came in. I can still see the bumper sticker after the game. Tulane printed it up. Tenacity 31, expectations 28. You know, and it totally threw us off. And so it was a rivalry that in the Deep South, because don't forget, Tulane was part of the SEC, right? And they have since admitted that was the biggest mistake they ever made was leaving the SEC, right? And think back of Tulane's teams back in the 40s. You know, you had Eddie Price, who was a fabulous player. Then you had the Benny Ellender teams of the early 70s, Bullard's Bandits, who came to play in Memphis, Rob, at the Liberty Bowl in 1970. And I think it was Houston. I think they played Colorado. They played Colorado in that 1970 Liberty Bowl. So, but Tulane again this year, it's incredible what they've done to be in the Cotton Bowl, playing USC, and look, the boys out in the desert are pretty impressed with them. It was only a 2-point line. I haven't looked at the line, recently, but it was only 2 points. That's a lot of respect for a Tulane team going up against the Heisman Trophy winner and USC.
And people forget that road victory Tulane had at Kansas State early in the year.
Absolutely. Who's coming to the Sugar Bowl to play Alabama. In fact, I was sitting with Jay Batt at lunch at the Bienville Club yesterday, talking about that very thing that, and in fact, they're going to, because the Sugar Bowl's moved up on New Year's Eve, they're having the big parade and stuff the day before. In fact, Mark Romig, who is the chief marketing officer for New Orleans and Company, which is the tourism arm that, works with the Sugar Bowl, brings them in. And to all these guys that are buddies of mine, they were talking about how great of a matchup it was. And then all my Tulane buddies were at the same table. We had like a table of 8 guys, Sims Hughes, Billy Hughes, all my Tulane friends. They made sure to remind everybody, hey, by the way, that Sugar Bowl team that's in there, we beat them on the road.
Yeah.
So,
hey, one thing. One little reference. Wesley Duncan just sent this from Fort Lauderdale, and I'm sure y'all saw it this morning. I saw it early. Franco Harris passed away.
Oh, no.
2 days, 2 days before the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. So Franco Harris, man, what a stud. I mean, that's what we grew up with in the NFL.
Hey, Rob,
last guy.
I was at Neyland Stadium when Franco Harris, Lydell Mitchell came in.
Yeah.
They were 10-0. It was that was the first year they went to 11 games in the regular season. And it was a late ad. They scheduled the game maybe in the early part of the year, and they played at Tennessee. And Tennessee, of course, had the great Jackie Walker, Bobby Majors, those guys.
Yeah.
And Tennessee killed them.
What year?
And Johnny Majors
won, and it was like 31-11. And then Penn State went on in the Cotton Bowl and just won easily. It was a really good Penn State team, but it was it was really interesting though that golly, Franco Harris and Lydell Mitchell in the same backfield.
Yeah.
I think Huffnagel was their quarterback, and oh man, they just had great players.
And then of course his career at Pittsburgh. I mean,
yeah,
we all grew up about the same time. I think Rob's a little bit younger than me, and Jimmy, you too. But I remember, again, I'm 62 right now. I can remember vividly those early Pittsburgh teams. That game against Oakland, the Immaculate Reception.
Yeah.
I remember when Pittsburgh came in and played the Saints on a Monday night when I was a Tulane ball boy, which meant you could go walk right in the Tulane offices to any Saints game. I never paid for the Saints game. And so, because the offices were right in the stadium, so you could walk right through. But I remember, Buddy's good friend Terry Bradshaw, and Franco and them coming in, and the butt whooping they put on the Saints. I think it was like 30-0. It was our first time on Monday night and just got shellacked. But those teams, Franco Harris was the heart and soul of that team on offense. He really was. I mean, Lynn Swan was incredible and very talented, and Terry Bradshaw was, the director. But those teams went by what Franco Harris did on the ground in those miserably cold days in Three Rivers Stadium.
Frank, look, Jim Nagy is about to join us. If you can hang on, executive director of the Senior Bowl. And of course, he spent 18 years in the NFL, 6 trips to the Super Bowl, got a ring with the Packers, 2 with the Patriots, and 1 with the Seahawks. And now he's with the Senior Bowl, where the draft begins. But I want to say something too, Rocky Bleier. And I'm trying to get Rocky Bleier on this show. You remember him. I know you and Jimmy do. And
veteran.
I still have the Sports Illustrated somewhere in my stack of stacks of him walking through a rice field in Vietnam. And, he was injured and he went back, and Tom Rinaldi did a great feature where they went back to Vietnam, and actually one of the scouts that worked with them ran into him. But let's look, here we are. Is there a better time to say this? Look at these guys, how tough they were and still are compared to these sniveling, whining little, brats that won't even play in a bowl game because they're afraid of getting hurt.
Well,
you think Rocky Bleier wasn't afraid of getting hurt in Vietnam? The guy gets hurt. Yeah, God.
Rob and Jimmy, think about those wide receivers that used to be able to go across the middle, and Jack Tatum. The rules allowed him to take their heads off with a bandage wrap that I'm sure had steel on all sides of the wrap, and they were decleating people. And these were the running backs that were coming out of the backfield that Bradshaw is dumping the ball off to Harris and Bleier. I mean, those guys were Pittsburgh tough. Steel.
Yeah, ironically,
rice patty tough.
Hey, Frank, ironically, Franco Harris, during his time in Pittsburgh, he really started this trend, and now it's normal. But at the time, it didn't work in a shot in beer town like Pittsburgh. But he was the first NFL player I'd ever seen that after he got kind of a sizable game, but he was near the sideline, he was the first guy I ever saw. And for him, the fact he was playing for the Steelers, he would just, if he saw him, that the play was pretty much done, he was going to get as many yards as he could. He just ran out of bounds to avoid that hit because, the punishment, in those days was in a lot of ways worse than now. But it didn't work in Pittsburgh. But, and then the announcers, I forgot who was doing the game, but they noted it. But then after a while, you start realizing, well, this is a pretty punishing game. And nowadays it's normal.
Yeah. Jimmy, let's do this, guys. Jim Nagy's on with us right now from Mobile, executive director of the Senior Bowl. And Jim, I want to thank you for taking time out of your Wednesday to join us on Sidelines. And Jimmy Hodge and Frank Duffy and I are having a discussion. We're actually talking about the sad news that Franco Harris passed away 2 days before the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception, and just, the toughness of guys of that era. And boy, we need that back. But what I love having you on here always. Merry Christmas, and talk if you ever had a chance to meet Franco Harris and just about how special the players from that era not just were, but are still to this day.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Good to be with you all again. Yeah, I mean, I think I'd argue a little bit that this era lacks toughness. I think this sport right now is more violent than it's ever been. Just the speed and the physicality is significantly more than in the 1970s, in my opinion. But Franco was a great back. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, really sad news coming off, last week with Coach Leach. We put him in the Senior Bowl Hall of Fame back in 1992. I grew up in the 70s. I was a young kid in the 70s. So Franco was one of my first favorite players. I had a poster of him in my bedroom, but
Franco's
I've got faint memories of him playing, not nearly to the degree that I'm used to talking about players now when I'm scouting them, but a great player, those 70s Steelers teams, one of the best ever, with that pre-free agency Steelers team where they could keep that team was together for about a decade. Which is incredible. I can kind of wish it'd be cool to see what teams would look like now if there weren't free agency and you could keep teams together. But yeah, sad day losing Franco, and really sad considering, like you said, just the timing of it before they're getting ready to retire his number up there in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Yeah, and Frank and Jimmy and Jim Nagy, I got to ask you this. Looking at the Senior Bowl, I love it. 41% of the players drafted come out of the Senior Bowl. It all starts in Mobile. It's a year-round event. Molly Middleton, the whole crew, it never stops, the information that y'all put out. This is year 5 or 6 for you, and I'm definitely coming this year. Last year, my mom got the virus and I had to deal with that, and I'm coming this year, and I'm going to get some Reese's Pieces. But I think everyone I talk to that comes to the bowl brags and just says, my God, everybody there bends over and just what can we do to help make the experience better? And it's the who's who of professional football, the NFL brand. It's the most valuable brand in the world. What are you going to do to improve on it? I mean, I know you're probably as competitive as you are. We can make it still better.
And especially a cool reward for those kids that stay 4 years. That's the really cool thing. It rewards them.
Yeah, it does. And it rewards the guys that get their diplomas early. The last couple of years, we've the league put in a rule about 10 years ago now, where juniors, if they graduate, they can play. And I think we had a dozen last year. I think we had 16 the year before that. Yeah. We've got some pretty high profile juniors in this year's game as well. So no, you're right. We're trying to get better every year. That's the goal. The last 2 years, we've had 106 players drafted in each year, and that's the highest ever in Senior Bowl history. And we've added new events to the week, giving people more of a reason to come down. We've got a really cool Senior Bowl Summit event on Thursday night. We're putting together with a bunch of Auburn and Alabama greats at the Sanger Theater down here. It's going to be called the Stage Divided, kind of a play on the Old House Divided theme. Got some really good commitments for that. Ozzie Newsome, Sean Alexander, Ronnie Brown, Jason Campbell, Willie Anderson. So some riff just from those two schools are a big deal down here in the Mobile market. So we'll pack out the Sanger that on Thursday night. And then Friday, we're having our Players Mardi Gras parade. Mobile is the home of Mardi Gras. If there's anything, so Mobile's pretty proud of being the home of the Senior Bowl, and they're also pretty proud of being the original home of Mardi Gras as well. So the first Mardi Gras parade, the real first Mardi Gras parade is the night before our game on Friday night, February 3rd. And so our players, we've been doing a Players Mardi Gras parade for the Senior Bowl the last few years. We will roll right before the Condi organization goes that night. There's going to be anywhere between 60 and 100,000 people downtown for that. We're having a free downtown concert with Nelly in Mardi Gras Park across from the Players Hotel that night, and then game day Saturday. So yeah, it's a big week, man. It's a 3-ring circus. We're really excited about this year's roster. Just got another big announcement. We're pushing an announcement on a big Alabama player here.
Hold that thought, Jim, if you can. We got to take a quick break. I want you to tell us right after this because I want to hear it. Huge news. Jim Nagy, Executive Director, Senior Bowl, with us on Sidelines.
What is that, Jan? That's a great idea. I'm running out of stuff anyways. Jan just had an amazing idea. It's your 10th day of your 12 days of Red River Christmas, and she just gave me a great idea. It's your 10 Lords of Leaping, and I'm telling you, they'd be jumping for joy over this. Come by, purchase you a new vehicle, and I'm going to give you a $500 Visa gift card. That's right. Purchase a new ride, get you a $500 Visa gift card, go and spend that on Christmas, buy your spouse a special gift, buy your children a special gift, whatever you got. Jan's got your back, and I've got your $500 Visa gift card today.
All right, Rob Brown back here with Jim Nagy, Executive Director of the Mobile Reese's Pieces Mobile Senior Bowl. Frank Duffy had to get off. It was great. You should have seen the light, the halo around his head. Audrey said he looked like an angel. Jimmy Hodge up in Lake Zurich, Illinois. I'm at Mallory's Kitchen here in Atlanta. And Jim, you were talking about a big announcement regarding an Alabama player in the Senior Bowl. We got a lot of listeners all over Alabama.
Yeah, we're not going to announce it right now. We're going to We're going to push it here in a little bit, but that'll get us to 8 Alabama players, which is our second most we've ever had. All these guys are really deserving. So no, we're excited about the roster. We're at 119 players right now, so that thing's really rounding out. We've got a couple juniors that we're going to add here after they declare and come out and just kind of putting a bow on this thing.
When you think about the process of putting together the Senior Bowl, I remember a year ago, August, there was a watch list of almost 700 players that you put out, and you do something similar, I guess, every year, and then it whittles down. Each week there's guys on that list, and they've allowed now, if you graduate early, you can come to the Senior Bowl. Do you see guys down there? And I understand about the money that's there, but if you're scared in anything, you're not going to do as well. What do you sense from the players down there now that you didn't see 15, 20 years ago, your experience in the NFL?
Yeah, I would say it's a little different seeing it from this side. That there are a lot of nerves for all these guys. It's the best of the best in college football, and you would think all these guys would that wouldn't be an issue for guys that are at this caliber. But there's always a little apprehension with them, and it makes sense. There's a lot of anxiety. It's one thing to be out on your college campus, at practice. It's another thing to be out of practice here with Bill Belichick and Mike Tomlin and guys like standing right next to you watching every single rep. So I think I'm more in tune to the anxiety. I think we see that when these guys get off the bus sometimes. Probably more so with some of the small school players. The first year, back in 2018, my first year down here doing this, I think there were some small school guys that this was a little too big for them. And ever since then, and we lost them pretty early in the week. You could see it. You could see it. They get beaten a couple reps, and you kind of feel we were losing them. So ever since then, the last 4 years, I've made sure to follow up with multiple people on a coaching staff with the small school guys and make sure they're wired the right way, because just because they're a dominant player at the small school level, you just never know how that's gonna carry over under the bright lights. Some guys thrive and some guys shrink, and so we've had to adjust that way. But I'd say that's probably the biggest difference between what it was when I came down here as an NFL scout for 20 years, as opposed to being down here running the game now.
Yeah, and that to me, like you said, the anxiety part of it, you sense some of these guys feel like, well, I haven't played at this level, but they get down there. You may have been at a FCS level school, and all of a sudden you're around all these guys from the SEC. It's like living in the median on I-65. If you do, you better pull out of your driveway doing 100. I mean, it's that quick of a change. I like that description. Jimmy Hodge jumping here with Jim Nagy of the Senior Bowl.
Hey, Jim, before I ask you a question, I wanted to clarify my statement on the NFL back in the early Franco Harris days. I think I worded it wrongly. What I really meant was, in those days, the sheer brutality of the game, because you really didn't protect the quarterbacks. It was kind of open season. And I can remember the Ben Davidson clothesline on Lynn Dawson, which started one of the great brawls of all time in the NFL that lasted about 15 minutes. And now, and some of the roughing passer, the calls you see now are kind of some of those old timers are you kidding? And you can't touch the center snap specialist anymore, whether it's on extra points, field goals, or punters. But I just wanted to emphasize, these players, I mean, the way they hit and their speed, it's unbelievable. It's just that now the powers that be are so conscious about the safety aspect of it, and the perception, that it leaves out there. It's not like Jack Tatum and George Atkinson before plays. They could say, "Hey, I'm going to take a shot on this guy." It's a little different, but
there's no doubt that the rules have legislated out a lot. I mean, receivers can run over the middle now, and they don't have to worry about the guys like you said, like Tatum and Ronnie Lott. There's no doubt about that. Quarterbacks are protected, but just to me, even when I got into this 25 years ago, just the violence, if you get down on field level, it does not carry over to TV. I'll say that if anyone that has been lucky enough to be down on an NFL football field, it's way different than the SEC. I mean, it's just a whole different level. People think SEC football is great, and it is, but I mean, it's not even close to the NFL in terms of the violence of it. So, no, but I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, the speed on the sideline, Jim, is blinding almost. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. And one other thing I wanted to ask you this before, and I am going to get to my question, I promise you, but Deion Sanders was the fastest guy I've ever seen on a football field in a uniform. I'm just wondering, who would you rank up there? And then when I do want to ask the question, though, and that is regarding the transfer portal. Are there any guys in your game that maybe a year ago, before they transferred, maybe they weren't getting some playing time somewhere, and maybe you guys weren't really aware of them? But of course, scouts know about players on every team. Hey, they're not playing much, but hey, down the road they could be a factor. Were there any guys there that got an opportunity at another school and had a big season that popped on your radar and are playing in the game?
There's got to be. I'm just looking at the board right now. There's usually a handful of cases like that every year, whether it was a transfer this past year or, now within a guy's career arc. Most of these guys have been multiple spots. A couple from the Big Ten really stand out. Charlie Jones at Purdue, who's a wide receiver, was at Iowa in the past. And when I called Iowa early in the year, before the season even started, I asked about him, and they said, "Well, Charlie's probably the fastest guy in our program. We hate to lose him." And then he goes to Purdue this year and first team All Big Ten. Caught 90-some balls, 15 touchdowns, whatever it was. Trey Palmer, similar at Nebraska. He was a 4-star kid to LSU. Who just wasn't getting in the lineup at LSU. Goes up to Nebraska. I think he was the other All Big Ten receiver. Had a monster year that way. So just at the receiver position, that's 2 guys. And then just scanning the board right now, those 2 guys really stuck out. But yeah, there's a number of those guys every year that, for whatever reason, they weren't getting a real opportunity at one school, and they transfer, and it all happens for them in 1 year. So it certainly happens.
Jim, when you look around, like my son went up last weekend, flew up with some friends of his that took him to Charlotte for the Carolina-Pittsburgh game. Same thing that Jimmy talked about, and you just talked about. He said it was unbelievable because he was there to watch Chandler Wooten, linebacker from Ackworth, Georgia, who played at Auburn, and Derek Brown, of course, for the Panthers, and also Montravius Adams, who's now, I think, with the Steelers. He said it's like the best of the SEC, just even faster and more violent. And that's the thing about the NFL and the brand. And we're lucky to have Jim Tunney, the dean of NFL referees, on our show from time to time. And from 1960 to the early 90s, he called a lot of games. I mean, maybe 500. It was just a bunch. The brand of the NFL and what you do at the Senior Bowl, you work a lot with Roger Goodell and the people in New York, don't you?
Yeah, we have to. Absolutely. No, it's a good relationship. They provide our coaching staffs every year. We partner with them on a number of different initiatives
Yeah.
throughout the year. So yeah, that's an important relationship for us.
Yeah, because it just, to me, that like 1996. What is the value of that franchise? $6 billion plus. That's just. I mean, it is, and I think there were 40 Thanksgiving Day Cowboys and the Giants. It's a high-rated game. So it's what you do is you're like a trust fan of the NFL. It's a lot. It's a lot of fun, and like I said, they provide you with the coaching staff. So this is it, really. I mean, when they get to Mobile, those guys, it's like they've signed up. From here on out, they're keeping score. I love it. Jimmy, I know you had another question for Jim Nagy.
Well, yeah, Jim, I wanted to ask you as far as just the coaching staffs that come in every year. A lot of our listeners are curious about how they are selected, and I know it's determined obviously on teams that are staffs that don't make the playoffs. But how do you kind of determine that on a year-by-year basis, or as the season goes along and it's apparent maybe that certain teams won't be in the playoff hunt? And of course, in this day and age in the NFL, I mean, it's never the same teams that are in the playoff like every year. You always have surprise teams. And how do you determine that? Because it's really interesting lots of times which coaching staffs are coaching each team and their different philosophies, and how that can affect or determine how the players maybe adjust depending on the different philosophies that those staffs have in conducting practice that are different from those of other coaching staffs.
Yeah. The coaching staffs for the past 73 years, that's what's always made the Senior Bowl different is, the full coaching staffs. And that's always just been determined by the draft order. And we really don't have a lot of say in that. They start at the top of the draft and, they put it out to those teams. The teams can either accept to coach in the game or they can decline the opportunity. And usually it doesn't go too far. We usually have two teams picking in the top 10, but the teams that are having coaching turnover.
Yeah. Jim? Okay. Jim, are you there? Okay. Well, yeah, Jim, hopefully we get Jim.
Yep. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. We got you. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a call coming in. Yeah, so if you're drafted in the top, if you don't have a full staff, then you can't come to Mobile and coach in the game. So you got to have a full staff ready to come down here and coach. And then there's going to be teams that just go through a hard season, and the head coach doesn't want to ask his assistants to do that. It's going through a tough season. One year in Kansas City, I was there. We were 2-14, brutal year. I mean, you just wanted to get away from it. So that's why some teams pass. It's hard, man. It's hard going 2-14, and having a tough season. So yeah, it's just determined by draft order. And again, it's the league office handles that, and they assign it to us right after the season's over.
Jim, I know you got a big day ahead of you. I know thank you so much for taking time to be with us. Let people know how they can get tickets to the Senior Bowl and follow you. And again, Merry Christmas to you. And thanks to Mobile for all you do. And one question, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? And we'll let you go.
Man, I don't consider Die Hard a Christmas movie, but that's just me. I know that's.
I'm with you.
And no, for tickets, it's real easy. It's just seniorbowl.com. I think we've got like 9,000 tickets left. Stadium seats 25. So we're actually in a better spot than we were last year. Brand new stadium, 2-year-old stadium, state of the art, beautiful facility out there at South Alabama. Again, our rosters, like you said, last year we had 40% of last year's entire NFL draft. The year before it was 41%. So, you just look at the league right now, the Justin Herberts, Jalen Hurts. I mean, all these guys that are going to be in the MVP race. I think we had 13 of the top vote getters at their respective positions for the Pro Bowl that came out this week. So if you want to catch these guys before they become NFL stars and you live in the Southeast, it is a really fun 2-3 days to come down to Mobile. So we'd love to have you. Looking forward to it. Again, thanks so much, Jim. All right, guys. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. All right, Franz Beard waiting there, GatorbaitMedia.com. Franz, I read your column last night. For those that did not, on GatorbaitMedia.com, Franz, please talk about what your column and what you wrote in your column. That was great stuff from Jim Nagy of the Senior Bowl, and there will be no Senior Bowl. There will be no players unless we correct, the softness. But Franz, elaborate.
Well, we've reached I think a crossroads with football, and that is we've got this transfer portal that's run wild. We've got NIL that's run wild, and now the NCAA has elected a politician to be its next president, which everybody says, wow, he's not a university president. Well, what this tells us is the NCAA punted. They went to a politician because they think that the answer is going to be in the legislative process, which I think is nuts. I mean, I don't think anything's more ridiculous than Congress trying to, Congress can't even decide that, okay, 56 million people a day coming across the border is a bad thing. Yeah. So how the hell are they going to regulate college football and stuff? We got a problem too. We got a problem with opt-outs. That's a real issue. And maybe the answer for the opt-outs is the bowl game. Let's say you're the Phoenix City, Alabama Bowl, and you got a brand new 100,000 seat stadium there, right smack dab in the middle of Phoenix City, and you want to fill it, but you can't fill it if all the good players opt out. So what do? Maybe the answer to that is, okay, I provide an insurance policy that not only gives an upfront fee, but a loss of future income money to any player that gets injured. Maybe that's the answer. Right now, I think that's the only answer that's making any sense. And of course, there are people who are a lot smarter than I who can get involved in this and probably come up with better answers. But from a layman's perspective right now, that's the better answer, is to come up with something. You got to come up with something that tells these players, because we're living in an era where, guys will sit out 3 games with a hangnail. And we grew up in an era.
Franz, hold that thought. You're right. We're living in an era where narcissism is okay, according to some people. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959 right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
She's the one. Okay, Rob Brown back here with you with Franz Beard, GatorbaitMedia.com, and Jimmy Hodge. And Franz, my what I said before as we went to the break is it's narcissism. It's just these. I mean, you look at a lot of people that that just they're the only one at their job that works. They're the only one that has any problems. The guys quitting on their teams. And that embarrassment to the Florida brand against Oregon State in the Las Vegas Bowl is a classic example of you had a bunch of guys that were going into the portal that didn't play. Miller comes in. That's why he was the backup. It's pretty obvious. But, something, and it will change. The free market will change. Right now, we're seeing these big NIL deals. You're not going to see them like this. Because enough people will get burned with zero return on investment, and they'll stop doing this. I mean, what is the deal with the $3 million offensive lineman that Rujas, whatever, the billionaire trial attorney at Miami is paying for? That's insane.
Well, here's the thing about it, and I think both of you guys can agree. An offensive lineman, except in rare occasions, is going to need minimum of a redshirt year and then a redshirt freshman year to get his feet wet. That redshirt freshman year, if he's good, he'll get to play snaps on special teams, on the punt unit, on the extra point and field goal units, etc., like that. But it's typically, a really good offensive lineman. Most of the good ones that you see in the NFL were 3 years in development, and then they played for 2. You got a rarity like Osiris Torrance this year, who started as a true freshman and then went 4 years and never allowed a sack. How many guys like that are there? 1 in 1,000.
Yeah.
But you get guys like that. How can you give a guy $3 million and expect that he's going to come in there and dominate as a true freshman? Spurrier started 2 true freshmen on the offensive line his entire career, and at Florida. And one of them was Reggie Green. The other one was Jason Odom. And they only played because there was nobody else. They were true freshmen, and that was Shane Matthews' senior year, and Shane paid the price for it, but you've got to have some sort of way to deal with all this. There aren't a lot of good answers right now. Imagine this. I'll throw something at you, and I'd like to hear both of you comment on this. Okay, I'm the offensive line coach at University of Walla Walla, and I make $400,000 a year, which in Walla Walla, Washington, is lots of money. But along comes my new freshman offensive lineman. He gets $2 million out of NIL. He's making more money than I am. Yeah. So I say, okay, Billy Bob, you whiffed on 5 occasions and our quarterback got killed, and we're now down to our 4th string quarterback who hadn't taken a snap since the Powder Puff co-ed game in high school.
Yeah.
And my offensive lineman say what?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do when you have that situation, Franz?
That's the question, Jimmy. I you've been around as long as I have, just about, or maybe, no, yeah. You're not that old.
Well, let me say this. I think, especially at the Power 5 level, these coaches, especially position coaches, have been around a long time.
Yeah.
And I think they're still just going to follow their own principles, try to teach these guys the best they can, and even if they might not be very solid fundamentally, at least teach that, and then hope they can continue to replicate what's being taught in practice during games, and hope for the best. But if it's not working out and this guy's getting key players injured, and which causes games to be missed and that type of thing, you have to confer with your offensive coordinator, your head coach, and do what any coach would would do, which has allowed them to get to that level, and that is you got to play your best guys. Doesn't it? You got to tell that guy who's footing the bill on the NIL deal, hey, listen, John, this guy's just not cutting it. You've seen how many players we've gotten injured. We're going to have to go with the best players. That's the only way you can do it.
Well, I agree, Jimmy and Franz. You have to tell. That's the thing. We haven't heard publicly about this yet, but you know what's going on along the lines of what Jimmy just said. You got a booster that's giving you a pile of money, and he's a sponsor of all your athletic programs. Mm-hmm. Let's say he sells firewood, or lumber. Okay. And we don't
know anybody like that.
We don't. But let's say he's got some hotshot recruit that he's paying a boatload of money to, and that guy just ain't getting it. He ain't getting the job done. And you say we're gonna put him on the bench, and then let's say said unnamed individual gets upset and throws a fit and withdraws all funding. See, that's why I believe we got a problem coming up, and the free market will fix it. I'll use it as an example. In my business as a financial advisor, I remember in the late 90s, you had all the ads about Stewart and the $1.99 trades and who needs a financial advisor. And then March of 2000 came along. The NASDAQ was over 5,000. It just imploded. The markets imploded. 08, 09, look at all these examples. History has shown, when you try to go on your own, you'll average about 3% over time using an advisor. Because what's the most important thing about being successful in the stock market is emotions. Using an advisor who can say, look, we've seen this before. Diversify. Well, that's kind of what you're going to see this happen with NIL right now, because managing people's money for 31 plus years has taught me one thing. The people, 95% of wealth in this country is first generation. And it is very difficult to get wealthy people to just, is money away. They're not going to do it. Not the ones I know. Okay. So you got this trial lawyer that's bankrolling Miami right now. If this offensive lineman doesn't pan out immediately and doesn't have a nervous breakdown from all the pressure, because he will be reminded he's getting paid $3 million by that guy. The sword of Damocles will hang over his head, Franz Beard. That's where I see this thing going, because Jimmy made a great statement, great case. Now, let's head back down to Gainesville and go to the left guard, to the left, and next to Tommy Petty. I want to get your thoughts, Franz.
Well, here's I agree that, we got problems coming ahead. Jimmy's right about the, most college coaches, but let's say that big booster with the NIL money is a real strong guy, and you say, well, I can't play this guy anymore. He says, well, I got a contract, and guess what? He says, I'll pull the rug on all my guys. Or let's say the guy goes bankrupt. Could happen. Well, the FTX guy everybody thought was worth $86 gazillion, and guess what?
Samuel Bank fraud. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, look at there's so many things that can happen. One suggestion that I heard is that this is the kind of thing, and we'll see it in the next couple of years, that NIL, the only way to stop NIL is to make the players employees. And then let's say the SEC sets a salary cap, let's say $8.5 million per team. So that would average out to $100,000 for every scholarship player on your ball club. Of course, when you do, that sounds really good. But of course, here's another thing. Louisiana Billy Napier's last year at Louisiana, they had a football budget of $11.6 million. Florida spent $90 million on football in 2021. Okay. Do you think they can afford an $8.5 million? And then you have the can of worms that opens up afterward. The girls, the girls' sperm whale harpooning team says, wait a second, where's our money? We got Title IX protecting us. Okay. My gosh, and then along comes the intramural Squamish team, and they're saying, wait a second, where's our money?
Well, Fran, I know you're right. And I was watching a comedian last night on the color TV through the neighbors. They had the blinds pulled up because you know how damn expensive cable is. There was a comedian on there, and it was hilarious. He was just saying, I don't know what it is, guys, but I'm watching ESPN. They got all these male athletes on there, whole panel of guys, and they're talking about the WNBA and all these women's professional sports. And they're looking at these guys and they're going, why do the men make so much more money than the women? And why doesn't anybody, watch the WNBA compared to the NBA and the NFL and all? And all these guys are looking at each other like going, I don't know. I don't, come on. Nobody, they're afraid to tell the truth because the free market always wins. I love it. The harpoon, whale, piercing team. I mean, people are going to watch and the money will go to what people care about. That's why I'm saying the free market's going to work all this stuff out, people. Don't lose any sleep over it. Franz and Jimmy, y'all two right there together put about as good a painted as good a picture as I've ever seen. I mean, it's y'all are both right. You're so right, Carl, as Shug would often say on the WSFA South Central Bell Auburn Football Review with Coach Ralph Shug Jordan. But I love it, Franz. Keep going. I just had to get that in about a whole panel of guys, and nobody's got got a pair on them to tell the truth why people don't watch that stuff because they're not interested in it. They don't care.
There's only, you go to Tennessee, you go to LSU, you go to UConn, and you'll see a really good crowd for a women's basketball game.
Yeah.
You go to Florida, which is 11-1, and if the Gators draw 2,500 people, that's a big crowd. And they talk about, boy, that crowd was great today. It's 2,500. Our gymnastics team sells out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Our gymnastics team sells out, but women's basketball draws 2,500. And I believe me, I'm a former women's basketball coach. So I appreciate what they do. But
sure.
Let me put it this way. People go to ball games to see guys with their hands and elbows above the rim. They don't go to watch a game that's played below the rim, which is what the women's game is. It's a game that's played below the rim, and it's a game that's played with a lot of girls that can't shoot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Franz, Audrey just made a good point. Jimmy, you remember this. All of y'all do. She goes, why don't the girls play before the boys play, before the men play, like in high school?
Title IX.
Well, okay. See, there you go. And I'll just say this. I have 2 boys and 2 girls. Men's lacrosse in the South, Florida's in, I think it plays in the ACC or whatever, but it's a club sport for the most part. And, people have, lacrosse is what it is. I mean, it's big in the Atlantic coast and it's big among a lot of kids that want to play it, but people, whether it's a men's or women's sport, why isn't there men's soccer in the SEC? Okay. Because the sports will come there and the sports will be fielded if the money's coming after them. So you get this panel of men being asked, why don't the men, why don't people want to watch LeBron James play basketball or Kevin Durant? Or, why would they want to watch Ja Morant play for the Grizzlies instead of the WNBA? Well, I don't know. I mean, By the way, that was Bill Burr, the comedian. I suggest y'all all watch this. That's one of the funniest pieces I've ever seen, but it's honest because rooted in almost all comedies, the truth, isn't it, guys?
Yeah. Well, here's as you mentioned this sport that I got my fix for the next 4 years on Sunday. Don't have to watch don't have to watch another soccer match for 4 years. So I got that out of the way. And as the late, great Dan Jenkins once said, take soccer, please. Yeah.
Henny Youngman, take my wife, please. Take
I mean, let me put it this way. I'm watching a World Cup match and they're saying he's had 4 outstanding tries. In other words, my quarterback just missed his 4th consecutive pass to a wide open receiver, and he missed him by about 18 yards. And I'm sitting there saying, what a great try.
What a great try.
Are you out of your freaking mind?
He
missed. He missed. It's like, okay, a penalty shootout, 18 yards away. Okay, a field goal kicker misses from 18 yards. He's on the waiver wire.
Exactly. Franz, we've run out of time, unfortunately. I mean, Jimmy, Franz, this is great stuff. We'll be back tomorrow. I want to say this. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out and help with the expectation of getting nothing in return. Don't give to get, give to give. Franz, last question for you. GatorbaitMedia.com, folks. Catch him. Also, the Buddy Martin Show, Monday through Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. Check it out on Facebook and Twitter. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie in 10 seconds? Yes or no?
It's a movie that was at Christmas time, but it isn't a Christmas movie.
I absolutely agree. And Jimmy agrees with you. Audrey agrees with you. It's not a Christmas movie unless Rudolph is the lead character and Santa Claus. Okay. Hey, folks.
One last thing real quick. Yeah. If and this is pertains to Rudolph, if you weren't the lead reindeer, the view never changed.
I love it. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. We are out of here.